Hi everybody and welcome to Swedish Radio in Stockholm. I'm here to present Klara Corona, Creative Solutions Take Us Through the Crisis. This is a big constructive news campaign that was launched by Swedish Radio in the spring and that is still running. My name is Olle Zachrisson and I'm Head of Digital News Development here at SR. I'm going to talk you through the campaign, the methods used, our objectives with it, the impact and some conclusions. But let's start from the beginning. It was in the middle of March and the gloomy headlines dominated. I'm sure it was the same on your websites. The first COVID-related deaths started to appear, factories were stopped, experts predicted more people to die, public events like the Eurovision Song Contest were cancelled, and we all started to realize that this was maybe the most serious crisis we had ever seen. But at the same time, Sweden and Europe was full of creative ideas on how to get through the pandemic, on how to help each other out. There were so many tremendous and touching initiatives and expressions of solidarity going on all around the country. We could see this clearly on our local websites. Swedish Radio has 26 local stations across the country, and they were already doing a lot of stories about these new collaborations and solutions. There were people helping the elderly with grocery shopping, new digital services, and groups formed to make protective equipment for hospital staff. But these audio stories were not collected, promoted, or coordinated in any good or systematic way here at SR. The national audience missed out on the bigger picture, and it was hard to find these really inspiring stories. So building on experiences from previous constructive news campaigns at SR, we thought it would be a good idea to launch one website and one common hashtag. This could then be used as an umbrella to collect all these stories and inspire both the public and our journalists to go out and find more examples. We decided to call the campaign Klara Corona. This means in direct translation something like coping with or enduring or handling corona. And the term has very positive connotations in Swedish. We think it symbolizes we can do it, people help each other, there is hope, new ideas are born, solutions are found, others share your pain, you can contribute, people are innovative. So let's have a look at some examples from this multimedia campaign that people met on a range of platforms, including radio, online and social media.
The darkest of times brings out the best in people. To cope with the crisis, Swedes came up with new solutions and ideas, like singing Volare to the elderly outside the nursing home, or making protective gear or even a whole ventilator from stuff you find at home. Hundreds of audio stories from across Sweden were collected in Swedish Radio's constructive news campaign Klara Corona, Enduring Corona. Within a few weeks, we had collected hundreds of positive examples and over 1,000 tagged posts on Instagram. Some funny, like the guy who made a giant hat to keep social distance. Some helped others being active, like meeting up with a choir out in the forest. Some emotional, like a nurse begging people to stay at home. Sometimes being pissed off at Corona also helps others, like the punk rock song from an angry 7-year-old. The reactions were overwhelming from the audience, and the campaign inspired 2 new radio shows. Because to help others is also helping yourself. Klara Corona.
So launching this common platform created a big push and energized reporters all over SR to do more of these stories. And they were also picked up by our big national current affairs shows. I think it's pretty amazing that we have to this day collected more than 2,000 constructive, funny, emotional and heartwarming stories on the website. Like this group of volunteers in the middle here that have made 13,000 protective visors for hospital staff, and that just in a couple of weeks. Or one of the first Swedish couples to live stream a wedding in March. All our local stations could themselves add content onto their website, but it was very important to keep a sharp angle and the constructive focus on the website. We didn't want just any corona-related stories to be put on there. And there were many such examples that we had to take down, I can tell you. So we used the definition to guide reporters and editors, signaling this is the spirit of Klara Corona. The corona COVID-19 pandemic is a hard blow to people's lives and will have long-lasting effects. But with creative ideas and new collaborations, people are coming together to mitigate the effects of the crisis and help the most vulnerable. Swedish Radio collects and promotes these stories from all around Sweden in our constructive news campaign, Klara Corona. It was also a great help from the outset to clearly and early define some key objectives with the campaign. We wanted to highlight constructive action from all over the country that listeners could find inspiration in, preferably with a wow factor, to give a more true and multifaceted view of society. We mean pay attention to the solutions orientated in these deeply challenging times. To gather content that we already produced in different parts of the country, but under one brand and make it more visible to the audience. And to secure a broad mix of perspectives and prevent people from actually turning away from news altogether. To promote more local journalism in our national programs. And to actively engage listeners in dialogue, giving us news stories to follow up. And one thing that was really overwhelming was the audience response. The listeners did our job for us in helping us identify many more examples of creative civic action and new ideas and solutions poured in that appeared close to people's lives. Especially on Instagram, thousands of people have to this day tagged their own posts with Klara Corona. It was also evident that this theme engaged people in conversation, exactly what we wanted to achieve. A lot of our local stations used the hashtag to get dialogue going, and we saw that those posts got a lot of replies in social media. So what did we do with all this engagement? Well, being Swedish Radio, of course, we launched some new radio shows that were actually entitled Klara Corona. Several episodes of 2 linear programs were aired on our biggest channels, P1 and P4, that have a combined audience of more than 4.5 million daily listeners. In these programs, initiatives found on the Klara Corona website were highlighted, audio bits were played, and it was all commentated by the initiators themselves and invited experts. And the underlying theme was, okay, we are in deep shit, but how do we get through this together? So, to sum it up, here are 5 conclusions from the Klara Corona project here at the Swedish Radio. The audience needs constructive news as part of the mix, especially in dark times. And this content engages more on website and app, social media and linear radio too, in fact. It changes the news narrative from a very gloomy institutions-based perspective to a more engaging, inspiring journalism about resilient individuals coming together. Constructive news makes the public eager to engage in dialogue with the newsroom and with each other. People speak openly and readily to reporters, comment and phone in. We think also it's very suitable for a national broadcaster like SR with regional operations because it symbolizes the whole nation coming together and at the same time adding local color. And the 5th is that the constructive news project is also constructive internally in the organization. The content inspires staff and helps them to cope with the crisis. It's easy to get started with a project like this, and it's fun to work with. Yeah, and this last point was indeed true also for myself. Working with Klara Corona made me Klara Corona a bit better in the spring. Sitting in social isolation, we desperately need this human connection and sense of community with our colleagues and with other people in society. And I really hope and believe we inspired some hope with this campaign. That is all from Swedish Radio here in Stockholm. Thank you and have a good week.